We are delighted to be here with two gentlemen of international soccer. They need no introduction at all. Nevertheless, I will tell you who they are. I have Deco playing far left today and Mark Schöne in the middle. Both won a lot of trophies with their respective teams, and today we shall be here addressing what does it transform a team into a winning team? What are the ingredients that are necessary for a team to win? What are the variables? What are the most important variables to guarantee a team to be a winning team? A question just to kick off for both of you. When you look at your careers as players, which factor would distinguish what you brought to your respective teams that actually helped your team to be successful? Good afternoon, Pedro. I believe, I think discipline actually helped. Day-to-day hard work on a day-to-day basis. That way, you can contribute for the team in that case. In my particular case, since I started, I was always focused in what I aimed for, all the more so when you have a responsibility, when someone is hiring you. So discipline, hard work, hard daily work is key. Deco, we are fully aware, we were well known as the magician, so talent was imbued with you. What is the greatest ingredient that, in your view, you thought it was key in order to be successful? Oh, well, I agree with what Marcus said, discipline, all those factors, but I believe there is something that the great players, mainly is those that convey something, when they actually wish to win, not accepting to be defeated on the match, during the match, on the pitch. It all starts with preparation, with training, with the will, and then transported into the match as a reflex of what we were prepared to it during the week. I brought a little bit of that. I wanted to make history. I wanted to conquer important things. Obviously, I have the exact notion. It also depended on several factors, depending on the teams. On some teams, it was not possible to win, because sometimes at that moment we weren't that qualified. Sometimes it not depended on quality. As a group, sometimes we were not that prepared. Sometimes the coast was not the best solution. But at the end, all those factors, but the individual factor is the will to win. That the more players have the same spirit, that actually makes a winning team. I think I somehow managed to do that on my day-to-day work. I was fully aware when I did not do that in some moments, but I believe that maybe in 90% of my career, I think hopefully I have managed to do so. Deco touched a key factor, leadership. You talked about the coach. What is the percentage for a team to succeed in a championship or at a tournament? What can a coach actually bring into the locker room or into the training facilities? If a team has got everything, what kind of extra percentage can the coach actually convey to you so that you can win several titles? From my experience, from the experience we had, and in my particular case, I strongly believe that plus to win a tournament, that extra plus, people have to actually need to trust the coach. You can have great players. If the group does not trust the coach, which once again I underline that this is an extra plus, you can hardly ever obtain results. Trust in trust as a leader, as a person. I believe sometimes the coach cannot go along too much with his emotions. He cannot be emotion driven. Sometimes we abuse a little bit. Sometimes there are abuses. I think the coach have to be firm, but at the same time, they must be empathical with the group. They have to lead in order to obtain this extra plus to win championships. Persuading such a great group, I think the coach is key in every conquest. All the more so because there are big human groups, and some groups are easier to work with because sometimes it depends on the level of the players, what they have won. We are all aware that there are cycles, there are groups that win a lot and then naturally end at a certain point. Sometimes it decreases, so that coach management is very important in every sense. But I believe coaches actually guide. But when the coach is lucky enough to have a great group of players, the way the players face challenges, if they actually wish to win, sometimes coaches are lucky enough to find a group of players that actually wish to conquer important things, and then it's easier. Sometimes coaches have greater difficulties in groups that have already won important things, that management is more complex. But it's hard to say what in terms of percentage, because there are cases very qualified groups, and sometimes coach only has to manage and not that much to train. They must be shrewd enough to put everything into practice. But it's important. It's hard to say a percentage, but it's key. I would like to grab the specific examples both from Marcos and from Deco and address a little bit about the X factor that does a team having potential into being capable of winning. Marcos, Spain has always had talents, great players, great teams, but there were decades without winning any teams until you won Euro in 2008. What changed? Well, I think the key change was the reasoning, the mindset. As you mentioned, Spain always had great players, generations of players, fantastic players that always reached the quarterfinals, semifinals once, and they didn't manage to take that leap at the final and win the championship. As of 2008, Luis Aragonés is no longer with us. Many of you should know him. He managed to convey the winning mindset. He conveyed it to us. We had a fantastic group. Deco was even privileged to play with Xavi and Dexter. Yes, that generation and Churchill. He grabbed the ball easily. It was a true privilege to me to be able to perform with those players and with Andy and many others. But coming back to the level of why was it a great championship? Why did Spain collect these fruit? Because the mindset changed. All the more so, I put it to you, in Euro 2008, when we met Italy in the quarterfinals, many thought we will not pass. We had dropped many times before Italy. But the mindset was already another one. So we have had a fantastic championship up to that moment. There was a moment on the match where the team seemed to fall, but it was a provocation, and there were penalties, and this was really hard. We suffered a lot. We had that backpack, and then we got to the semifinals, and then at the finals, we won the championship. That came the World Cup, and then so you won 3 in a row. So it's a mindset. Talking about mindset, Deco, it's curiously the national team mindset changed a lot since 2004, and using the the winning mindset of José Mourinho in Porto's team 2004 too. Yes, I agree with Marcos, but I also believe that I would like to add the following. When a team or a national team starts working many times or reaching very important quarterfinals or half finals, that step when you are almost there, you mentioned it, sometimes the almost getting there. Portugal, for me, talking about the last years, Portugal has always had, as of 2002, went into an exponential increase until the Euro and the World Championship. And then in 2016 we won because they got used to there to compete among their peers, and then obviously that mindset makes a difference. And in that case, we had that in the 2004 generation. And then it's football. There is momentum. These are things we cannot control. We try to do everything very well done, and sometimes, occasionally, it does not happen. But we actually got there. In Porto 2004, we had 2002. Actually, we had a generation not easy to be met, very high-ranked players at the football team as good as Porto. The market speed in terms of transfers, it's almost impossible to have a history such as Marcus. 11 years, it's very hard to have that due to the quality of the players. Things happen at a swifter pace. In my case, 5 or 6 years in Porto. Players like Vitor Bahia, who came from Barcelona, then he had 8 years. These cases are rare. So there were several factors that were joined, several players, young players. Wow, a championship was not that easy to find there. And with a coach with a winning mindset, it was completely absurd, out of reality, with a training way that was complete. It was a complete breakthrough, the way he faced the matches. He knew the weaker points and the strong points that we all had, and the way we could win the matches, even when our rivals were a little bit ahead. So we gained extra trust. It all started with UEFA. Mourinho, the coach, Mourinho came to Porto in 2002, in December. And as of then, we managed what I referred to. We had a great team. But for me, at that moment, we had a coach that actually represented a revolution with knowledge out of the ordinary. And he managed to put into practice all that. It was really a privilege having Mourinho. He continues to be all the best, one of the best, with all the knowledge he had to convey. After Porto, a question: you had the opportunity to work with him again or not? No, I only worked with him in Porto in 2004. Then I went to Barcelona, and then each one followed their way. Then he went to Chelsea. I played against him many times, but never together again. I will go back to the pitch, but I would like to ask you something about the successful ingredients outside the pitch. You met the realities of several clubs. At this stage, you also work with several teams differently. Marcos works with Villarreal as ambassador, as a person who works in the international relations of the club. Deco works with many clubs. Inside the work he develops with his agency representing players. Grabbing that experience, the experience you also had as players, talk about the importance of the structure of a club. What pieces of the puzzle have to be in order so that the players themselves will feel they can win? We all know many clubs with a lot of money, but they cannot win. They have a lot of talent, but they cannot win. Clubs with a lot of history, but they do not win. So grabbing a little bit all these examples, there are so many all over Europe, the structure of the club, the way the management, the club management, what difference can it make? too. Well, Pedro, as Deco has asked before, I was 11 years. I played at Villarreal, and now almost 4 years in the administrative part as ambassador. My idea in the beginning when I came to Europe was to bridge, because when they hired me at Villarreal, the first thing I asked is, where is that club? What does it stand? Because I had such a strong will to perform in Europe that I accepted. During that proposal, I had a proposal from Thiago Doronés from Ukraine, which was not the structure that it is today. So we had Portugal, Spain, Germany, Italy, and then Villarreal came out. When I went to the city has 50,000 inhabitants. It's a small village, very small place, but there we deal with the structure. That called my attention. The club I came from in Brazil, I had been in Corinthians, most of us had been there. I came from São Caetano. We came from a final from the Libertadores Cup, and São Caetano is a sportive city in terms of training. I trained at the stadium. Sometimes I rented some place to train. All in all, coming back to Villarreal, what I think it was key in terms of structure that called my attention. Obviously, during the first years, I had the idea of stepping into another team, with a greater tradition, and then playing with Deco in Barcelona. It could be, but Barcelona did not have the structure they have today. We shall get there. Then I had the privilege to grow along with Villarreal team. I left in 2006. I went to Manchester United, entrepreneur from Coimbra. He must be around there from Coimbra. My wife at the time was pregnant, and that was important. Villarreal was at the Champions League. So I continued at Villarreal. I maintained myself there. And that led to my continuing to grow with the club. Then I went to the national team. I gained a title with the national team. I believe it is key. The player outside the club, we have to be worried. If the club no longer has a good structure, they would have two main worries. The one with the club, because they do not have the structure he aimed for, and then the extra things on a day-to-day basis. So I believe that my being there for such a long time, I'll help you. Does it fit now? My being at Villarreal after I came to Europe, I was in Villarreal and the national team. It was due to the organization, the structure. We were very tranquil there on a day-to-day basis, and today it's a privilege to be able to represent them. A club such as Villarreal, which is no longer a promise. It's a reality. It's real in the world scenario, of course, respecting each one's traditions. Deco, Barcelona, their motto is make you more than a club. But you were telling me very swiftly that the structure was not exactly the one you found when you got there. Yes, there was a quick, radical change 15 years ago. When I got to Porto in '98, we did not have a training center. We were around the stadiums, like the great clubs, like the Barcelona did. So in terms of organization, it was a radical change. I lived all that as a player, both in Porto, and I grabbed all those. I noticed all those changes. Chelsea had another reality. When I got there, they already had a very big structure, but 8 years ago it did not exist. It changed. And nowadays what I acknowledge is that many clubs have been properly structured, the academia, the training centers, a concern outside the pitch concerned with the adaptation of several players. Sometimes I think people worry about the players in that regard. There's a lot to be done. I'm talking about our Portuguese football. But even though the small clubs have improved, have tried to create good conditions for the players, this has actually made a difference, both in terms of the quality of the match and the quality of the training. Of course, a player, when we train in better conditions, that will easily reflected afterwards. That has been the path. And I already witnessed a lot of clubs with very important structures in Brazil, inclusively. We already have clubs with very well structured. Fluminense, we had a very complicated pitch. Now, things have progressed in most clubs. That is key. Does a player feel when the club structure is stable or not? When the president changes, when the director general leaves, when the sportive directors change, can that actually affect the players' work? Yes, I believe so. Obviously, at the level of directors, it affects less because our contact with them is not that narrow as the one with the physical trainer, doctors, or the coach. I think the more problems the player has, the better they will perform and train. But I believe it affects everything. If the club has a great structure with a minimum number of problems, all the least affected will the players be. Now, getting back to the pitch again. Most of the teams that have won the great titles, both at the level of the national teams and at the level of the clubs in the last years, have a star. Most of them have a car. Both Real Madrid with Cristiano Ronaldo, or Barcelona with Messi, or national teams. They always have a team normally. The importance, I would like to address the importance of talent and magic inside the pitch as one of the ingredients to have a winning team. And how can one deal a star? How can we deal with the star so that the star feels good and the players feel good too? I think Marcus played with one of my favorite players, Riquelme. He had incredible talent. Deco, you were also very creative, and you also played with Ronaldinho and with Messi at the beginning of your career. So I would like to ask you, how can one build stability in a team that has to work? They all have to work, even the stars. Some have to work for the others. That will make the difference. What's the importance of talent?
Well, the question of the so-called star or the main players has to do much more with the press than our day-to-day activities. At least I've been in the role of the protagonist in some clubs, and others maybe not so much during the game. Not that way that we are talking about, but maybe more sacrifice on the pitch, like in Barcelona. And I had some protagonism and freedom during the game. And then when I went to Barcelona, I had to go to the beginning, where I had the function of a +1. So that is what is most important to us. It's a little bit like that. We in the area, we know the importance of balance of the game. So in some moments of the game, we have to find it balanced, that some talented player can create this imbalance. That's what Gauch was doing in Barcelona, maybe in some moments in Porto. I had that role, but this question of the way we are dealt with implies that all players are aware of the importance that they have, and all their other colleagues, but that special treatment that exists, it's much more to do with the press. In our daily activities, we deal with this. We know the quality of the players we play with. We know the importance, and it's a natural question of being able to create situations for us wanting to win. It doesn't matter who did what and who scored. I just wanted to win, and if I had to make a sacrifice for that player that has that special quality to develop and make us win the championships and titles, that's more important. After that, we have the treatment by the press and that these players have, and nowadays it's always been like that actually. But not when I had more protagonism or when I had a bit less. It was always the same. I always did my part, but when you have these top-level players, it wouldn't be fair not to let them play and do a little bit of sacrifice, make this sacrifice, because there's no problem in accepting that during the game. But I think this is a role that as a player, as a team, and not as an individual role or in the background, or let somebody go to the foreground on purpose. That's a strategy as a team more than this idea of a star or the main player. At least from my part, it was never like that we saw it. Well, within all this that Deco has just mentioned, basically, I also agree, because obviously I played in Villarreal and Barcelona, and they're completely different in terms of the media. In terms of the press, we cannot compare them with the press of Villarreal. If you mention Ricard's name. He had the opportunity of playing in Barcelona. I don't know if he played with you. Great player, phenomenon. And as Deck said, we are dependent on this personality, and we want to win. I just wanted to win, if it's possible, to try and pass the ball further back so that you are going to make a goal further forward. It's an exchange, so we need to administer this very well, and that is where leadership comes in. Because the coach, the leader, allows it to be like this, or the way we have to play for a common goal, which is victory. So I agree with what he's just mentioned. I think that we just want to win, basically. And finally, a question for both. If you found at this moment the Mark Senna or Deco, when they were 19, 20, 21 years old, what kind of advice would you give them? Well, you go ahead. Well, within the realm of success and reaching it. Well, this advice, a great leader to me, was my father. My father would give me many, many pieces of advice until he left us 23 years ago this month. And my father was always mentioning the same thing: discipline, hard work, and above all, listening to your parents, because the best advisors, I believe, are our parents. Obviously, they are not going to wish harm to their own children. My father was my ally throughout my path in football. He'd give me excellent advice. And that's where I took the lead, and I do the same for my children. Focus, discipline, a lot of work. That's the base for you to be able to be successful, not only in the world of football, but any kind of career that you may want to have. I think that nowadays, as we this morning were in another panel and I spoke about this, the speed at which things happen nowadays, both for the good and the bad. A player can reach stardom very, very quickly and fall very, very quickly. And information that we have a lot is a lot at a very frightening speed, actually. Transfers also happening at frightening speeds. And what is most difficult to reach is for a young person to be calm, to be patient. Everybody needs to keep on dreaming and having a goal, but I would say being calm. Football nowadays is faster, but it's also faster for the good things and the bad things. The rise and fall are much quicker. Before these steps, as I said, you'd spend more times at the clubs. You had to end up, you ended up growing in the clubs, and you were more prepared for the next step. And now we have a lot of youngsters with a lot of quality, like in Portugal or the bigger clubs in Brazil. We're talking about these markets. They rise very quickly. and then they come tumbling down. If I had to give advice to Deco when he was that age, I'd say, keep calm, continue doing your work, take steps, well done, but calm, don't fall into the trap of success of the modern world, something like that. That's what I would say. Deco and Marcos, let me thank you on the fact that you shared some of your experiences and ideas, secrets as well of success, bearing in mind your careers, your brilliant careers, both on the field and now outside the field, and treading your paths. Thank you very much, Deco and Marcos Shannon.